back fees, but they won't be cheap.
We'll get into that for sure.
Back fees. You have anybody do the prayer this morning?
Yes.
Oh, there, right in front of you. Sorry. I didn't recognize you were wearing a pink shirt. Normally that's not, yeah.
Pink, that's orange. Salmon.
Fuchsia. I know some colors.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, Shelby.
See you.
Okay, ready? Okay, it's 9 o'clock, and if we can get Bill to quiet down, we can start our meeting. Bill Wilson, prosecutor's office, for the record. It's 9 o'clock. If you'll all stand with me, Pastor Lawrence will go ahead and open us in prayer.
Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given us. And we just pray for those that are in discomfort or harm's way because of the heat. We pray your blessing upon them, protection. We thank you for the churches and community groups that have opened places for cooling. And we just ask, Lord, that you'll direct in this meeting today of the commissioners, give them wisdom, direction, and bless all who have something to offer. We pray in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. You can follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Jeffy, you're up first.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move to add BOC item number 1, action item, discussion decision regarding severe weather fireworks ban resolution. This item is being added due to the emergent nature of the weather and timing of the upcoming holiday weekend.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the order of agenda as amended.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second there. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Moving along to public comment. You going to be signed up? There we go. Jean Stoneback?
Sign up. So.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Dan Rose? Go ahead, Dan.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioners and Chairman McDonald. I wish to thank the Commissioners McDonald and Connolly again for validating the relevance of the Bonner County Republican Central Committee by its recent reversal of decision, which lends agreement to the Bonner County Republican Central Committee resolution supporting the agricultural/forest to residential 10-acre minimum zoning. Pursuant to Bonner County Ordinance Title 1-200B, I request to add to the Commissioner's future business meeting agenda in the next month the following: Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. Number one, action item, discussion decision on plans presented to BOCC and updating the status of each of the subgroup plans. And number 2, action item, discussion and decision on any growth plan currently being implemented by the BOCC. And number 3, action item, discussion and decision of concluded administrative appeals brought to the BOCC under the umbrella of comprehensive plan and related to variance applications, comprehensive plan amendment applications, and rezoning applications. A previous request to agenda the issue of ARPA funding and foregone tax discussion was referred to a special workshop on May 15, 2021, on a special workshop meeting of May 15, 2021, that received no public attention as a matter of regular business meeting, and it was therefore an activity of silencing dissemination of public issues. Pursuant to Bonner County Ordinance Title 1-202, a business meeting is defined specifically for the time period, for this time period weekly, 9 a.m. on Tuesdays, not a workshop or a special meeting. I therefore request strict adherence to the ordinance language for the request of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. We'll take that under advisement. Next, Mayor Rogstad, do you speak?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I don't think that works, but
I wanted to speak to you today about the item that you just approved. I was hoping to get a chance to speak to you before passing it. I certainly, the city is in support of the sheriff's recommendation to enact Title 39, Chapter 26 due to the extreme weather that we're experiencing. I was certainly hoping, and certainly I speak on behalf of the city as well as Selkirk Fire. We were hoping that you would include the municipal jurisdictions as well as Selkirk Fire jurisdictions within your resolution. Given that it's only 5 days until the 4th of July, we're concerned that we're not going to have enough time to be able to circle back around to all those boards, relevant boards, and get each of those jurisdictions to approve a similar resolution in order to protect our community. And, you know, I don't think I need to speak to the importance of doing everything we can as a community to try and protect our county from the risk of fire danger, which obviously is severe, not just due to the weather, but given, you know, this is a threat that we see year after year. And pardon the pun, but I'm concerned we're literally playing with fire here. So I would certainly encourage you and implore you to broaden the net of the jurisdictions impacted by your resolution, include the city of Sandpoint, include Pondere, Kootenai, Dover, and certainly include Selkirk Fire District within that jurisdiction map. And that's, I do also have, I understand that perhaps there's a question, a legal question as to whether.
We'll discuss that when we get to the point.
And we'll call back on you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I do want to mention I have our attorney, Andrew Doman, who's online with us, and he would certainly like to speak to that question of jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
Given the opportunity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Anyone, that's the end of the list. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Kevin.
Kevin Moore for the record. And so as I was listening to several people here, one of the terms that came up, protect our county. So that reminds me, as per a few years ago, we had a train derailment in Coquilala area. And a little bit before that or whatever, as I was steadily monitoring what was going on in my living area or the area where I live, there was a railroad bridge that was debilitating concrete. And so as we're all aware of Florida, of a collapse of a building, and we're steadily finding out the complicity of what helped that all to happen. I've been steadily trying to relate to my peer group, and hopefully that means the city of Sandpoint too, whatever, and the officials there, of environmental issues and how a train derailment happened. And it's called liquefaction of railroad bed, not a term that I made up. And so as Scott Bauer and the prosecuting office with Road and Bridge have steadily debilitated, wrong word, delineated, well, yeah, I could say that, debilitated, delineated how things have steadily gone forward. There was a new bridge that got put in because of they could finally had to step up to the fact that it was decomposing. And so with an impounding of water, which Mr. Connolly was all on top of, whatever, to come out, and there's all kinds of pictures to facilitate not me making things up. I'm steadily trying to tell my peer group that there's an environmental issue that could escalate and has escalated to a worst case scenario of a train derailment. And I think we're all praising God that that derailment that happened back then was corn and not Bakken oil.
Thank you, Kevin. Anyone else wish to speak?
Mr. Chairman, Bob Smith with Idaho Farm Bureau. Good to see you. I mentioned this, I think previously you had attended a County Farm Bureau meeting that we would like to encourage you as a commission to write a letter in opposition to the concept that Congressman Simpson's put out for the breaching of the Snake River dams. You had done that. Okay. Thank you very much for doing that. It is a big issue for our farmers in the region and also for our power grid. Thank you.
Water supply seem to be getting lower. So. Okay, anyone else wish to speak before we move on here? Anyone out in anyone have their hand?
I was gonna say, IT thinks there is someone out there.
Okay, why don't we light them up? Is there anybody out there in TV land that wishes to speak this morning? Let's see anybody raising their hand. You know who it is, Claire?
He thought Andrew.
I think he's going to wait and speak during the when we actually take the issue up. Okay, so we'll move on. Consent agenda.
All right, Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any question and comment? Doug?
Get some specifics on the sheriff's office over 5K.
Yeah, it's bulletproof vest for $10,000 or around $10,000.
Just one?
Bulletproof, no, bulletproof vests. Plural. Yeah.
Bulletproof Corvettes? What? Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Can I get a rough estimate of numbers?
$10,196.
No.
So how many vests?
It
Let's
says,
see.
but
1, 2,
8.
8. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the sheriff that spoke
Wait a
up.
minute. Yeah, they have each one individually because they're all fitted. The officer. Daryl, how many did you say? 8. 8. Okay. Okay, great. Anyone else? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Moving along to clerk's office.
Good morning, commissioners. Good morning, everybody. Before you, I have claims batch number 20 in the amount of $440,292.03. Demand batch in the amount of $351,396.30, totaling $791,688.33 for your approval.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve payment of FY21 claims and demands in batch number 20, totaling $791,688.33.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any question or comment? Doug?
Doug Patterson for the record. On that, there is a payment for a court, I assume losing in a court battle. CV 09-19-06-29. Can someone tell me what that court battle was about, seeing as how it's now lost?
I don't know.
Scott, do you know? About 22,000, something like that, 20?
That was
$22,500.
attorney fees
Attorney fees.
for Lynn Scott. Attorney fees for Lynn Scott.
Over the asphalt batch plant.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
So I appreciate the brother bringing that up and finding out, Kevin Moore for the record. Bringing that up and to get delineated that it was 22,000 for some Lynn Scott deliberation. So do we still allow the public to know where we are going or standing with the Verbetta Bridge? Are we still deliberating?
Still in process.
Okay. Thank you.
A lot of change of legal counsel on the other side.
Yeah.
So it delayed the process considerably.
Okay, any other question or comment before we move on to the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Next, I have EMS claims batch number 20 in the amount of $20,492.63 and EMS demand batch 20 in the amount of $107,509.69, totaling $128,002.32 for your approval.
All right, I move to approve payment of the FY21 EMS claims in batch number 20, totaling $128,002.32.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Second question, Doug.
$107,509 for the annual ambulance payment.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I asked that.
I was just trying to make
I'm
light
glad
of
you
it.
brought that up. Annual ambulance, right?
Kevin,
Correct.
microphone, name for the record. Same thing every week.
Kevin, more for the record. And so the 107 annual ambulance
Payment.
Lease payment.
lease payment.
Lease purchase payment, yep.
Okay, any other question or comment? Nothing out on TV? Oh, Doug, you got another?
What's that?
It's a demand.
Demands aren't always surprises. They're credit card payments.
The normal process takes off.
Right. Yeah, demand doesn't mean surprise. It's not the kind of, this is an accounting term.
The difference, Doug, is if it's a timely thing, because whatever, it still goes through public hearing. It still has the commissioners vote on it. It's just a matter of, do I write the check first, then they, after the fact, ratify it? Or do they say yes, and then I write the check? That's the difference.
Perfect. And it's a lease agreement that we've already approved. So. Okay, any other question or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thanks, Mike. Emergency management, Bob Howard.
Morning, Commissioners. Bob Howard for the record. Item number one, the Stay at Home and Security Grant is a grant that supports emergency management operations with a 50-50 grant match. This grant is supplemental to the annual Emergency Management Performance Grant for the use of emergency management staff costs associated with COVID response in the amount of $12,856.51. The county match is $12,856.51. Total award with both of those together is $25,713.02. And this covers staff costs retroactive back to January.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I make a motion that Bonner County accept the Idaho Office of Emergency Management 2020 Supplemental Emergency Management Performance Grant Award number 20 EMPG 024 in the amount of $12,856.51 with a county match of $12,856.51. And the total award of the amount is $25,713.02.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any question or comment?
Kevin Moore for the record. Performance grant. And we're using this money going back to January for paying for, you said?
Staff costs for related to COVID response.
Thank you.
Yeah, when we get the money in for CARES Act or things like that, we have to actually formally allocate it where it goes. So. Any other question or comment? Not out in TV land. So with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Go ahead, Bob.
Item number two, attached is a lease agreement between Bonner County and Enterprise Fleet Management for a lease of a 2021 Chevy Silverado 1500 pickup. The monthly lease payment for this vehicle will be $837.43 a month. The term of this lease is 12 months. This vehicle will be assigned to the Fire Mitigation Program Manager in Emergency Management for daily field operations. This lease will be paid from the Secure Rural Schools Title III grant funds.
All right, Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve the lease agreement between Bonner County and Enterprise Fleet Management to lease a 2021 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 pickup in the amount of $837.43 per month to be paid with the SRS Title III funds for a term of 1 year and allow the chair to sign.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Question or comment? Kevin Moore.
Kevin Moore for the record. Thank you. This is a fuel delivery truck? I didn't catch that. Or
Oh,
field delivery?
it is a,
Not even close.
it's a half-ton four-wheel drive pickup truck
For?
for the Fire Mitigation Program Manager position that's been created.
Okay, that's the part that I.
So bonfire, Bonner County is going to take over the bonfire
Project
program.
management.
Yeah, project management instead of contracting it out. That's the direction we're heading.
Okay, any other question or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Bob. Go ahead and item number 3.
So this is the adoption of the emergency operations plan. So Idaho statute 46-1000 or 1009 subsection 4 states local and intergovernmental disaster agencies and services, East County or intergovernmental intergovernmental agency shall prepare and keep a current local intergovernmental disaster emergency management plan for its area. Bonner County Emergency Management developed an emergency operations plan in the interest of providing protection to local population and to address the natural and person-made hazards and related disasters in Bonner County. This plan supersedes the Bonner County Emergency Operations Plan dated May of 2009.
Mr. Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution 2021-55 approving the Bonner County Emergency Operation Plan as presented.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any question or comment? Kevin?
Yeah, more of the record. So is there some like paperwork, a little pamphlet or whatever that a citizen can see of what your emergency plan adoption is?
So once it's adopted, it'll be put on the Bonner County Emergency Management website for your reading pleasure.
Because,
It's pretty lengthy.
240 some pages.
Okay, because as I was saying earlier, I'm trying to keep my peer group abreast or whatever of some emergency environmental / environmental.
And we thank you for that.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Rose, for the record, of that 208 pages, how many pages were corrected, modified, or amended that are of significant interest?
All of them.
All been amended, complete rewrite of the whole plan and not in a...
We rewrote the plan and we cut it in half because the previous plan had a lot of redundant information in it. So we wanted to make it a more useful plan. So.
Okay, any other question or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Last but not least, Bob, item 4.
The attached MOU between Bonner County and Harvest Valley Church agrees to work together to both secure and provide shelter and care for displaced citizens, emergency personnel affected by natural and man-made disasters. I can make it longer.
No.
That was fast, Bob.
Short and sweet.
Based on the
Like it.
information before us, I move to approve and sign the MOU between Bonner County and the Harvest Valley Church for shelter and care services during an emergency.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Question. Doug?
Doug Patterson for the record. Can you tell us where Harvest Valley Church is?
It's on north of Ponderay, probably what, a mile or two on 95.
It used to be Hidden Valley.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other question or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next item, we'll go to Road and Bridge. Matt?
Matt Mulder, staff engineer for the Road and Bridge Department. You'll recall back in 2017, we had widespread landslides throughout the state of Idaho and Bonner County, and federal and state emergencies were declared. One of those landslides was on East River Road. We had 3 landslides up there at milepost 10, 11, and 11.2. In the 4 years since that time, we've been working with LTAC through the federal aid and the state emergency relief process to get money in place and to design a permanent repair to these 3 landslide locations. They've recently put that work out to bid, and the contractor is going to be getting started here next month on permanent repair. And as part of this process, we need to have a construction, engineering, and inspection firm on board as part of the project requirements. And so we have gone through a selection process and selected David Evans and Associates to be that construction, engineering, and inspection CE&I firm for this project. And the LTAC has prepared this professional services agreement for your approval. It's for a not to exceed amount of $184,212 for those services, of which Bonner County will be paying the invoices up front and then be reimbursed 92.66% through the state and federal emergency relief funds.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve this contract with LTAC and David Evans and Associates, Inc. for East River milepost 10, 11, 11.2, and allow the board to sign the agreement.
I would second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any question or comment? Kevin?
Kevin, for the record. So LTEC is involved and now David Evans, and so they're going to work together. But LTEC, they kind of do it for free, whatever, but we're going to pay David Evans $184,000. And I have one other question that I think goes along with that. East River, so we're doing 10, 11, and 11.2. Is that in connection, or can you tell me how many times or how much we've already spent generically to redo this slide in this area?
So this whole corridor has been prone to slides for a long time. Back in 2012, we had another major slide at milepost 11.3 that was repaired in 2015 through almost this identical process. And that was over $1 million repair. And now we've had additional slides at these three locations. The milepost 11.2 has probably been the one that's been the most chronic and cracks every year, big crack down the road and sinks another foot or two. And Bonner County has continually added more gravel and more rock to just build the road up year and year again. So this permanent repair has purchased easements and is actually going to go down the hill and build up from the bottom up, install drains to get the water out of the hill and do a lot of work. So hopefully we don't have any more chronic movement every year. The repairs that we did at milepost 11.3 just up the road have been effective, and it has not moved again since we did those permanent repairs.
Thank you for that. And so, yeah, I've heard you use the word permanent several times. And so, yeah, we're dealing with Mother Nature. So that's interesting.
Go ahead, Dan.
Mr. Chairman, Dan Rose for the record. Is this private property that we're purchasing easements from, and there's no other options around this area for the road that's costing so much money?
Most of the work for this is being done within the existing public right-of-way. There were some easements purchased down the hill onto private property for some of the drainage and culvert work and
have any of the insurance companies for the private property contributed to this cost?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so we'll go to the added item under Commissioners for Severe Fire Threat Fireworks Ban Resolution. Scott, are you going to do the honors here?
Yes. Commissioners, I was asked to draft up a resolution, a severe fire threat fireworks ban resolution, and I believe you had that before you. It covers unincorporated Bonner County, and the period is for the current fire season. That's not precisely defined as far as I know. That's the basics. Essentially, the board would make a finding that there is a severe fire threat warranting the banning of fireworks, and I think that's the policy discussion for today.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and get a motion in a second, then we'll open up the phone.
Chairman, based on the information before us, I move to approve resolution 2021-56, banning fireworks at the request of the Bonner County Sheriff due to extreme heat and the severe threat of fires during the 2021 fire season.
So I think it'd be important possibly to have Daryl kind of, since he was the one that's, kind of been asking for this, is to give us a brief rundown on what his goals are by. Why
don't we get a second, and then we'll have Daryl.
Oh yeah, we can do that too. I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, now we have a motion in a second. Daryl, why don't you come on up, and then I know there's some other folks. I think Andrew wants to speak as well, and we may probe Scott for some more information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners.
Sounds like we have a great amount of support, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I still do want to kind of give some background on why I think it's real important that we address this and that you commissioners pass this ordinance. First of all, I just want to remind you, remember back in September of 2020, the Hunter fire. And what I'm concerned is that if the fireworks get out of control, that things move so quickly that the county can be in just extreme danger. So I just want to take a minute and tell you what happened in the Hunter fire in Blanchard last year. At 10:38 in the morning, it was reported there was a fire up in the mountain over in Blanchard. 10:39 and RP was seen with the shovel and he said, hey, it's a 1 acre fire. At 11:01, the fire was getting bigger quickly. At 12:11, requesting enforcement for traffic control because of the smoke. At 12:38, Nixle was sent out and said, avoid Hunter Road about milepost 26. At 12:56, Department of Lands requesting traffic control because smoke was over the highway and people couldn't see. And at that time, it was almost jumped the highway. 13:01, dispatch called for troopers to assist. At 1:14 in the afternoon, RP called and said the phone lines are down in the area. So there was no communications with hard lines. At 1:45, Kootenai County advised that to have Bonner respond to 921 Hunter Road because residents were refusing to leave and the homes are burning. At 2:16, Department of Land stating air tankers want power shut off south of the fire. At 2:21, power was cut off with a 2-hour radius of the fire. And then at 2:40, Sergeant that was on duty advised that the fire was already at 60 acres. And then 2:55, Stone Ridge was being evacuated and deputies were going house to house. And then at 3:25, the Tower Mountain were evacuating. And at 4 p.m., flames at the entrance of the Spokane at Stone Ridge. We sent out a Nixle to evacuate the area. And our deputy sheriffs, we called every one of our deputies out. And in that night, we documented 640 knocks on doors, notifications to homes in the area. So I want to tell you, things can move so fast, and I'm really concerned for the safety of our community. I think it's important that we disband fireworks and pass this resolution. And I really appreciate the support of the fire departments. I've talked to the chiefs, and the city of Sandpoint is here, and all the partners that we work with know how desperately we need this resolution. And I just hope that we can work together. Most of you know, maybe some of them are going to make this notification, but possessing and using fireworks on public land is already prohibited on any public lands. If you do start a fire, Idaho Code 3817 states that starting a wildfire by use of fireworks is considered negligent, and the person who started the fire will bill at the cost of fighting the fire. You're personally liable for that cost. In May of 2018, Eagle Creek fire perpetrator was ordered, and this is in Oregon, to pay. He was a 15-year-old who started a fire with a smoke bomb. That family was ordered to pay $36.4 million, $36.6 million. It was 47,000 acre fire started by a 15-year-old kid. This can happen here, and we need to be cognizant of that. And we all like fireworks, but it's just too dangerous to do so. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions for the sheriff? No. Okay. Scott, will you come up and just kind of walk us through your findings of the statute? I think there's a debate with respect to that.
Well, commissioners, as the sheriff's already stated, there is personal liability under tort law. It's extensive already. So passing this, it's my understanding that there's a little bit gray what the penalty provision is for this. It looks like infraction, misdemeanor. It looks like the prosecutor and SO would treat this as an infraction. Other law enforcement agencies probably as an infraction. So you're adding a $100, $115 penalty on top of it's already, the civil liability is already enormous. I think, I don't think the infraction penalty is necessarily a strong deterrent. I think it's the publicity that would come with the formal prohibition, but it's already, as the sheriff's already stated, there's strict liability, which means even if you're non-negligent, I haven't read that particular statute. Normally it's a negligent standard, but it's strict liability. If you discharge a firework or if your kid does, you're vicariously liable for not just the expenses to fight it, but also property damage and everything like that. So it can be catastrophic. So there's already an inherent huge private liability. So to me, my legal opinion would be that extra $100 fine isn't much. It would enable the law enforcement to, a lot of 911 calls, a lot of law enforcement coming out, maybe stopping it while it's happening. That's kind of my sense.
Will you speak to the jurisdictional issues?
Yes, actually, and it's, I don't think I've met Andrew Doman. Is that correct? I haven't met him yet, and I didn't really spend a lot of time looking at the jurisdiction. I just kind of looked at sort of just facially on the statute. I'm just handing out a couple pieces here. And so, Andrew, you may have found something I'm not aware of, and I'd be happy to look at it. But basically, 3926 is a chapter of Idaho code that addresses this. And it talks about the authority having jurisdiction. It says the county commission, if the area is not within a city or fire protection district. And then when you go to 392609, the general prohibitions, subsection 4 says use fireworks in any area that constitutes a severe fire threat based on the vegetative conditions during the current fire season as determined by the county commission or authority having jurisdiction, provided that notice of such area is given in advance. There's a little bit of wiggle room there. My assumption, generally, the default rule is in Idaho, a county cannot legislate for other political subdivisions. In Washington, it's a little bit different. You can pass county code that would cover cities, other districts, but in Idaho, that's generally not the case. I know as a matter of convenience, we could draft, we've already done most of the drafting work. We can give the map information in a template resolution that would be easy to adopt for each entity. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, because in my reading, that's exactly how I read it, that we have our authority only exists outside of the fire districts. And we've got a map here outside of the fire districts and outside of the municipalities who enjoy their own authority. And when you look at the map, I'm trying to identify a place where we actually have authority. It looks like right here, right off of Duford, there's a little piece. Because most of it is either Forest Service, IDL, within a fire district, which means each one of those, and congratulations to Sam Owens for actually making a declaration and banning it in their area. But even Priest Lake, I don't see anywhere where we, under this statute, under 392602, that we have any authority.
Well, and it's very simple, to a last minute add on to an agenda and adopt a resolution with a map. So, and we already have the templates for the cities and fire districts. So if they to expedite that. But perhaps I'm wrong. I really haven't looked into the jurisdiction too much.
Let's hear what Andrew has to say. Andrew, can you hear us?
I can, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Andrew Doman. I'm the city attorney for the city of Sandpoint. I have looked at the draft of the resolution. My reading of the statutes is a little bit broader than council's. If you look at section statute 39-26094, the statute that he cited to, it says that the use of fireworks in any area that constitutes a severe fire threat based on the vegetative condition during the current fire season, and then as determined by the county commission or authority having jurisdiction. So either or. If you go back to the definitions under 392602, number 1, authority having jurisdiction is defined and correctly cited by council, means a city fire department if the area is within the city, or a fire protection district formed pursuant to the provisions of the Idaho Code, or the county commission if the area is not within the city. So the authority having jurisdiction is defined in that statute. However, in 392609(4), it states that either the authority having jurisdiction or the county commission may adopt that resolution and make that prohibition. And I believe under these circumstances, and I would echo the comments that have been made by the sheriff and by council, and certainly by the commissioners and Mayor Ronstadt, that given the severe circumstances that we're faced with right now, it would be beneficial to have this extend to all of the jurisdictions, including cities and fire protection districts, so that we afford the greatest protection possible. The last thing we'd want to be faced with is not having sufficient time to pass a similar resolution within the city or within one of the fire districts, have an incident such as the sheriff talked about with the Hunter fire, and we're faced with a very severe set of circumstances to deal with in the long run. My concern is that, and I know we have our fire chief from Selkirk present at the meeting. I don't know if we have sufficient time to convene the jurisdictional boards, and that's both the west side and the city, and also Sago fire districts, their boards. We may not have sufficient time to pass a similar resolution within those jurisdictions. Given that scenario, I would encourage the commission to consider passing this resolution to include not only those areas outside of fire districts and outside of municipalities in Bonner County, but also include them in your resolution. I think that's going to afford us to the greatest degree possible the ability to enforce the statute and hopefully not be faced with a severe or catastrophic fire.
Okay.
That's how I would interpret it.
Yeah, but when I read it, it just, when I read 20 or 392609, it says as determined by the county commissioners or authority having jurisdiction. So it doesn't sound like it gives the county commissioners authority. It sounds like it's either or. And then when you read 392602, it's pretty clear.
Well, and commissioners, if I may speak too, there's, even if we did have that power, there are liability reasons. When you pass an ordinance like this, it actually creates liability, civil liability to the county. And if you do it covering municipalities and fire districts, and there's reduced fireworks sales, there economic damages, there's various kinds of claims that can be brought against us. And there are, I mean, I'm pretty sure with even fire districts, but definitely for cities, you can have emergency meetings on almost no notice. Yes, so they could have an emergency meeting. Again, we can provide all the documentation, make it quite easy. But the state fire marshal, could make a ban region-wide, area-wide, if they at the state level they felt it was necessary. But it is a political. I took this to be a decision that has political consequences. It's not just an administrative agency coming down and enforcing a rule like the state fire marshal could. Basically, I took the policy of this chapter to be, look, every fire protection district, every city, and the county commission, they make the decision. They weigh the pros and cons during a fire season. And if the state thinks it's so bad that they want to erase that discretion at the local level, they can. But to me, this is somewhat of a political decision.
Well, I know that whenever we've tried to reach into cities or fire districts, we typically get our hands slapped. So.
And it could happen in the reverse, that if a city or a fire protection district tried to do it in an unincorporated county, obviously there'd be an objection. But even if we could, I worry about the liability. There is liability here, and I don't think it's appropriate to lay out all those liability elements on the record. It would be an executive session, but I just would, I would do it for the county. That's my recommendation if you're going to do it.
For the area under our jurisdiction.
Unincorporated, yep, area under jurisdiction.
The other concern I have is that, so we've all seen this coming. Yeah, there's still fireworks stands in Sandpoint selling safe and sane fireworks that are, when you really look at it, they're neither safe nor sane. In fact, the illegal fireworks, the ones that are aerials, actually extinguished before they hit the ground. The safe and sanes put out spark, all kinds of fire, and not everybody's going to use them intelligently, as we know, human nature. So my concern is then, are we going to be flooding 911 with calls over what is essentially a $100 infraction on a weekend when we should be looking at DUIs, fights? I mean, we may as well ban alcohol.
Well, and that's why I think
I'm not talking about banning alcohol.
Well, and
that'll make the phone ring.
Yeah, that'll get the phone. That'll get some emails going.
Well, Commissioner McDonald,
maybe ban hamburger because it's got high in cholesterol.
Yeah, and in favor of what you're saying too, the fire protection districts, their idea is security and safety. Right. The sheriff's office, their role function is security and safety. Well, there's liberty, safety issues, and your guys' role is to balance more political considerations, more the other issues. It is Independence Day. There is a liberty bias on Independence Day. It's not the whole fire season. You could ban it for the rest of the fire season and just not Independence Day. You could limit the ban. You could target it. You could just make it, over a few days, or you could do it for all you could carve out the Independence Day if you want to do that.
Yeah, and I've already seen fireworks going off for the last week.
Scott, you said, well, we have a template to where everybody could band together and get this done. Isn't that what you said?
Yes.
They would do
Our
individual.
template, our GIS department can do mapping just like that. And so we already have a map of the unincorporated area. The incorporated area can zoom in. I'm assuming there's a map requirement for the incorporated and the fire districts. If they don't already have a map, ready-made map for publication, I'm sure our GIS department could whip that out. The resolution would simply just, they could take our template, Ada County. I took ours from Ada County, but they could just take ours and just put fire district or city. I think it's only the city of Sandpoint that has a fire protection, fire department. The rest of them are in fire districts. So essentially the fire districts, I think they, I don't think that's hard for them to put that documentation together. It just isn't,
They can actually do it. They can actually do this over the phone or via Zoom even. So.
Yeah, and the emergency meeting provisions, I mean,
So then we would all get together? That's what you, no?
No, they would have to do it. They'd have to do it individually based on what we're seeing in here.
And and that's a political decision they have to make. It
shouldn't be. I think that's the flaw in this whole thing, is that this is some political thing. This should be about trying to protect Bonner County and the assets that we have in Bonner County. I think that making this political is part of the mistake, and sadly enough, we always seem to end up there. We're all taking sides, and if we can't all get on the same side on something that really looks like it could benefit the people that live here, because what my concern is not so much the people that live here, because they kind of know what they deal with and they understand what they live in. It's the people that come here from other areas that think this is the wild, wild west, that we don't have anybody enforcing our laws and ordinances, and they just do whatever they feel. I mean, you go to Priest Lake, you go to Priest River, and I'm sure this area is similar on any given weekend, and it's somewhat out of control with people doing things that the people that live here don't accept and don't want them doing. And I think that's
having to live with.
I think that getting the word out, somehow this is more about getting the word out to say, we don't want you coming here and acting like idiots. We want you to come here and act responsibly. And this is one of the things that we have to do because you don't do it yourself. And I think that to confuse this with politics or political, that's just sad.
And Commissioner Conley, by political, I didn't mean the divisive sense. What I meant is that, like in close call years, it's discretion. You're balancing the values of safety, increments of safety versus a public good and enjoyment of being able to light off fireworks. So in a year that's maybe not as hot, not as dry, where it's a closer call, you're not just looking at safety, you're also looking at the benefits of people exercising the freedom to enjoy fireworks. And all I'm saying is that the varying districts do that weighing. That's kind of part of it. That's why I don't think the state is making that regional decision or empowering the county to just do it, expressly over every other entity. Because there is a sense of that balancing going on. Maybe this year, maybe it is so the risk is so high, that balancing really, the safety really overwhelms the other considerations. But some of the time that's not the case. It's a balancing test.
So in the case of, in my opinion, I have to agree with Andrew on this situation. It's an either or. It's not, first it's these guys and second it's you, or you can make the decision. But to me, it's saying, if you feel that it's that imperative and it's that severe, then you can make that call, even if the fire, that's what I read in it. And okay, maybe we disagree, which frequently.
I mean, when it says, and the definition of authority having jurisdiction, the county commission, if the area is not within a city or fire protection district. Attorneys can argue, you can argue around it, but to me, the general bias in Idaho law is the county cannot legislate in other local government territories.
Yeah, and I don't.
They just can't.
I don't have a issue with the municipality.
What's that?
I said an according proceeding where the word "or" is used, and so it can be the city can do it within their city limits.
Yep.
The fire districts can do it within their fire districts. The county can do it within the county. So it's
Any
one of those can make that declaration.
Unincorporated
the
county.
severity and the necessity, I don't believe is in question.
Okay.
It's a stellar year for fire. This is the windiest time of year in Idaho right now, and the driest spring we've had, and who knows how long. 4th of July, because I did hay farming, it's usually wet. That's not the case this year. I think it would be irresponsible not to do it. I think the risk of liability would be much higher, being that we're sitting here with this opportunity to do it and not do it, and then your house burned down. When we could have put a ban on it, not that it would have kept somebody from lighting firecrackers, but we had the opportunity to make that.
And I can agree with you there. I just want to make a distinction though, that the advice of the prosecutor anyway is going to be that it's the unincorporated county that this ban can cover, not incorporated or fire district areas. So you can make your own decision, but that's our advice.
I don't read in either one of those sections where we're limited to that in this case.
And that you have a right to your opinion. You have a right to decide how you wish. I'm just giving advice.
Yeah, you may want to reread it because it seems pretty clear.
Well, I think what happens though is that as you go on into the title, and then it's talking about in extreme situations or, you know, severe fire threat. So it's talking about it differently. It's talking about a situation where you have a severe fire threat, and then these rules apply. It's not a double statement. It's a different statement.
And I think the liability would come in where the mayor of Sandpoint or one of the fire district chiefs would go, you overstepped into my area, so we're going to sue you. There's not a fire chief in this country that would oppose this ban. If there was, he would probably not be a fire chief the following week.
So if we approve this resolution, then we would be willing to also, you'd be willing to help out all these different districts so they could create a template for them so they can pass their own resolution.
Supplier templates. I want to fall short of giving them legal advice. It's right. Because these statutes, even Idaho code, I mean, there's litigation throughout the country. Different states with well, but what I'm saying is that these statutes are not necessarily constitutional. And so what happens is if you assume upon Bonner County that this statute is constitutional and this act is lawful, and we get sued, not just for what happens in unincorporated Bonner County, but the various cities and fire districts, you've assumed far more liability on the county than you needed to. And I think it's irresponsible.
Yeah, no, I know. Would you say, Mike? Say that.
So the statute did say,
what's your name?
Mike Roseville, County Clerk, for the record. The statute does state 3 different districts with authority. I think the amped up scenario with the dry weather does talk about any individual authority proclaiming that for their particular scope. It does not say the county can override everybody else's scope. I think everybody has the same sentiment that they want it to be, but I think Scott is dead right saying, even though we want it to be, it's not in our purview. It's not something we are able to do. And if we do that, and towns and cities and neighborhoods lose business because of it, we will be liable for that financial loss.
And if this law is unconstitutional, we will be liable.
Any other questions for council?
Yeah, Kevin Moore for the record. And we've used this term a few times, but it seems like we're missing the real gist here. I've heard the name state fire marshal a couple of times. And so are we not able to have a high declaratory from a state marshal, making a declaration or whatever term you lawyers use, whatever, to override or not have to silly piecemeal, whatever, all these local entities?
Well, Idaho, for better or for worse, you're right. They have that power. They could step into that position.
Well, emergency management, Mr. Howard or whatever, does he not have connection with the state fire marshal?
He does, but the statutory system allows the board to make this decision and the fire districts. So it's rational for them to make this decision on their own based on weighing whether they believe there's a severe fire threat, knowing the local circumstances, knowing the local preference for fireworks, knowing the people coming from outside, knowing the risk, a lot of local factors. The state simply doesn't tend to exercise a heavy hand over local government in Idaho. They have, well, accepting the CARES Act and the COVID issue.
Except the list of the following items.
Yeah.
No, but I get what you're saying.
So could we adjust the resolution to include the unincorporated Bonner County and all fire districts and cities?
Not legally.
That support it?
Not legally.
Not legally.
Okay.
That's the opinion of the prosecutor.
Other
Other attorneys will give you other opinions.
Yeah. We've heard from nearly, well, we
Every
haven't heard
fire
from all the
district.
municipalities, but we've heard from most all of the fire districts. They almost all support, and I don't know, Chief Minton, or if you have something different, you know, I mean, I've read some stuff that you didn't agree. So I think that everybody else is pretty much in agreement. But again, it's a hard thing to piece together. And the funny part is how would you ever enforce something if say Northside said, well, we don't want to be involved in that, only, you know, and then you have West Ponderay that says, well, we just assume not to. So you can have fireworks everywhere else except for in these particular areas. It's impossible for the sheriff to be able to enforce something like that. This piecemeal approach is just, to me, doesn't work.
Plus, everybody that wanted to pop firecrackers would go to that one fire district that said, we're off.
Well, so it would be
their fire district.
That was the intent of the legislature.
If they'd be strong about it to go ahead and pass the wrong resolution.
Yeah.
Mauricio, did you want to say something? Okay.
If I can just add one last piece, it's one thing for the districts and the cities to come and say, hey, we support this county, we support you doing it. It's quite another thing for them to convene their own meeting, deliberate, and then vote to impose it. And to me, it's not a timeliness matter. They can do that. They can set up an emergency meeting, a short-term notice meeting. They can do it. To me, it's the liability. There's a lot of liability here. You guys don't see it, and we're not in executive session, so we're not going to go through all those things. But it's also our opinion that this statute doesn't give us this power.
And when I see it, I see the liability. Someone want to speak?
Lewis Witt, for the record, isn't there a legal mechanism that can be created under the form of an agreement between the municipalities and the county under an emergency session or executive session?
You could do, there are joint powers agreements, there are joint powers associations that administer these agreements. I'm not sure in this case whether this statute would enable that kind of decision-making here. It's possible, but it was something we would have to look at.
Well,
carefully.
It's an emergency, it seems.
Right, but in an emergency, there's already statutory framework for each entity to declare their own.
I'm asking if there's a mechanism available that could be used between all the entities, county, cities, and local fire districts.
I would think just coordination. So basically, we just take a template, informal coordination. We just route, Bonner's template to the other entities, and it's very simple. This is done throughout the whole state. It's just you put the map where the ban is, and that's it. And so it's
done by the
but it has to be bought into by all the entities involved.
Right. It does, and there's a freedom.
They have to make their own.
They
just got to sign and weigh their own liabilities. So
well, they have to convene.
Mauricio Cardona, is there anything preventing each jurisdiction to hold an emergency meeting tonight?
There's nothing preventing them.
Yeah, if we can't convene a quorum, those entities aren't going to be able to meet unless and until they can. So, quite frankly, it's a timing issue, and whether or not we can get those 3 fire districts to meet because they still hold that authority under the joint powers agreement, and the city of Sandpoint as well. I appreciate council's offer to work and provide us with a template. I would mention too, I think you have that authority right now. And I think regardless of whatever liability there would be, there might be greater liability if we have a catastrophic fire. So with that, I would encourage you to consider providing that throughout the county as well.
Would the city be willing to indemnify Bonner County for any liability related to any lawsuits with this ban?
I'm not in a position to comment on that right now, Scott. I have no authority to make that representation.
And Andrew, I'm not sure how we would have any liability if someone chooses to be negligent and start a fire. I can't see that bridge.
Chairman, I agree. I mean, you know, I think we've covered that issue. The greatest liability and the greatest fear here is if somebody discharges an unlawful firework, it causes a fire, and it goes from one jurisdiction to another. It doesn't matter where the fire starts. It's going to, if it crosses a jurisdictional boundary, that's the issue. The county and the city aren't responsible for that. It's the person who caused the fire. In the case of the fire that we talked about, a 15-year-old boy. So I'm not sure that that's the issue of paramount importance here. I think the most important issue is let's make sure that we do everything we can to limit those types of incidents occurring.
Right, and I agree, and I think that's why it's important for each one of these districts to use our template and adopt these things as quickly as possible. I mean, the open meeting law does allow for emergency meetings, and they can be there. It's pretty loose with respect to how the meeting has to be held. So it provides a fairly simple and easy vehicle for each fire district and each municipality to be able to deal with. Kootenai and Ponderay wouldn't have to because I believe they're in North Side, right? Yeah, Sandpoint would have to because they have their own fire. Priest Lake is in a fire district. Pretty much everyone's
Three
in,
different.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the map. I mean, the whole county is pretty much covered. So,
yeah, yes. If the fire board can't convene quorum now in this situation, they may. Plus the fact that it's not convenient for them. Plus the fact that it's not convenient for them to do this is not an excuse.
Right, not convenient.
County the right.
Yeah,
A telephonic quorum, it's very easy to convene.
Take the seat. You got to do the work.
Especially in emergency.
He's been
Go ahead.
patient.
You're up. Dan, did you want to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chairman. I would add some thought on the firearms and the constitutionality of these issues, as mentioned by counsel, and also in enforcement. Firearms sometimes can be confused with fireworks, which is going to send the sheriffs and the deputies running around the county like crazy trying to.
The sheriff has said that he's going to have increased patrol, but when you look at the depth and the breadth of the county.
Yeah, I'm balancing the emergency situation of the conditions with the enforcement as well. And I agree with the issue at hand. I would further state that you need to stay within your lane. And going, as one of the commissioners might be adding, to redefining law and how do we say, co-opting and usurping the language, which is one of the issues I have major problems with this board about, on many different factors, is that. And that's the, how do we say, slippery slope that that I don't like. And I think we need to pay good attention to it. And that's all I have. And again, I will add further support to what Clerk Rosedale said. This is their job function. This is an emergency. The call out came, get to the meeting.
So Claire, will you mark this day on the calendar? I actually agree with Dan Rose. Just kidding. Sorry, Dan, I couldn't resist. Go ahead.
Thank you. Dale Hopkins, Interim Fire Chief, Selkirk Fire. While I agree that the board should be able to get together and have a meeting and do this, it's not that easy. You know, we have commissioners that are not in town right now, and we will attempt to do that, but I cannot say that I can get a quorum together in our 2 fire districts to do this. The difficulty I have with that whole concept of each individual fire district passing their own resolution in the district is you're going to end up with this piecemeal. You can do it here, you can't do it there. I can't drive down the road and tell you where every district boundary is. The sheriff can't, and the tourist sure can't. These district boundaries are lines on a map that are lined up with people's parcels. You can't enforce this one's in, this one's out. There's no signs on, you know, we don't paint the lines on this on the property where these boundaries of fire districts begin and end. So it is important, if we're going to make this basically worthwhile, that it's done countywide by the county commissioners and not just piecemeal. You can do it here, you can't do it there, because nobody's going to know where you can and can't do fireworks. We need to ban it countywide, get it out in the paper, and let everybody know that you can't shoot fireworks in Bonner County. It's unsafe.
Mr. Chair.
Do you have a fire chief that's said they're not for a fireworks ban?
I have not.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got all the fire chiefs are for this. I'm still not trying to understand what the issue is here. Let's call a meeting. You can do it over the phone. I mean, like I said, the emergency provision in the open meeting law allows for a lot of flexibility.
Mr.
Can I chime in for a second?
Please.
Wish you would.
Better get by a mic so that the people out in the.
So this is Bill Wilson for the record. I'm another deputy prosecutor. I work with Scott Bauer, and these practical considerations are all, I have no reason to question them. Those are very valid. But if we don't address the threshold question of what the statute actually allows us to do, those are all considerations that you should make after you've done that. Maybe you have. I just want to reiterate for Scott and for me that, you know, the prosecutor's position on this matter is that you do not have the authority to do that. I don't particularly think it's close. It's one of this question is one of statutory interpretation, right? The word or. Does the word or mean that there is overlapping jurisdiction between cities and the county or fire districts where either or of them can place this ban? It doesn't strike me as rational given the definition of jurisdictional authority higher in the code. The or, to me, as I interpret that, is implicitly referencing where the ban will take place. It's either going to be in the unincorporated county, and therefore the county will have the jurisdiction, or it will be in a fire district and the fire district will have jurisdiction. I think taking the chapter as a whole, I don't think that that's, I mean, I certainly respect Mr. Doman, and reasonable people can disagree, but I don't think it's close. So again, we want to respect your guys's, you are the elected officials. Ultimately, you get to choose what you want to do. And what we give you is only advice. But, you know, for our own selfish, you know, self-interest, we just want to make sure that it's clear that what our position is. And then you guys have the right to do whatever you think is just.
And to add on to what Mr. Wilson just said is that when these infractions get to the prosecutor's office, you already know our position is that they're unenforceable. So I can't imagine the prosecutor's office prosecuting anybody with this resolution covering jurisdictions we don't think the statute authorizes.
So if all the other jurisdictions pass their own resolution, then is it?
Yes, the prosecutor would then proceed 100%. To enforce.
Right.
So even more evidence on why all these other entities need to pass this.
And you know, I hate to look forward and try to give a, you know, I always take any infraction or misdemeanor, whatever charge it is, I'm going to look at that on the facts of that charge. So I don't want to make a blanket statement about enforceability or whether or not it would be prosecuted, but we would definitely be looking at that with a close eye. If someone were cited in an area that was, you know, a city or a fire district under this provision, there would be a very strong argument that it was in fact lawful because the jurisdiction that had authority to actually enforce the ban wasn't the one that did it. That's the concern.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
So if this board did not pass the fireworks ban, does it tie his hands?
Tie Daryl's hands?
Yeah. Because we've got to clear him on the county level.
Certainly. Right. So we would no longer, if we didn't have the ban in place, then any of the criminal penalties that might flow from it, and we've talked about those now, whether or not it's an infraction or a misdemeanor, depending on which code provision, he would no longer have the ability to write the citation for that. So yes, he would have.
And this really just be for the safe and sane fireworks, because the other aerials are already illegal.
Well,
he has that authority.
Not true. Aerials are not already illegal.
Yeah, I don't know if we've had that discussion yet.
That's good to know.
They have permitting requirements and other things like that, but well, yeah. To answer your question, yes, you guys adopting this ordinance, yes, it invokes that provision that says, you know, now that it's been made, then there are criminal provisions available. So it does give him tools.
I guess I'm not sure that Mr. Bradshaw's understanding that
well, I understand the unincorporated part.
Right, I know what I'm saying.
We don't give him the go ahead.
Right, but
he's tied.
We can pass this, Commissioner Bradshaw.
Right. But it opens the door for the rest of them to sign.
They have to do their own. So we can do that. And if you look at the map, I don't know if I think
I've
identified two smaller layers. I found another one out on Sago Peninsula. So right, it's actually Bill's house. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be
what's involved in Bonner County declaring an emergency.
I'm sorry, we repeat that?
What's involved in Bonner County declaring an emergency during this fireworks season?
What's it? Well, considerations for health and safety, right? Is that absolutely? And like I said, I don't want to give my personal opinion as to whether or not the ban is appropriate. That's entirely for you guys. I'm just trying to help you understand the position that the prosecutor's office has taken as to the scope of your authority to do that.
What's the liability if I declare emergency in Bonner County fire?
Bill,
well, that's really impossible to say. It's real and difficult to say in a public forum. Typically, we do that in executive session if we were talking about risk or potential litigation. I don't know.
Bill, can I just jump in? Because the disaster emergency statute's a separate statute, separate provisions. You declare the disaster emergency, often to get resources from the state, financial aid, other entities will respond. Our emergency operations plan contemplates an actual emergency. So that's a fire's already started, right? It's post-disaster. This is preventative. This doesn't fit that. Yep.
Let alone the fact we'd have to have we'd have to agendize it and have another meeting. I think our best bet is to pass this resolution as is, to then have Scott work with all the other entities, provide them with the template so they can pass theirs, and away we go.
Steve, do you have any more questions for me before I sit down?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Nice sunglasses, by the way.
I lost my prescriptions. I'm not trying to wear sunglasses.
Whatever. Okay.
Okay. Of course you're not.
Kevin?
Well, Kevin Moore's the record. And so it's still, it's talking about piecemeal, all this stuff. And so somehow I still feel this falls back to the state fire marshal. And so we can't be the only county, and we can't, the Northwest is all talking about dry. And I'm guessing there's other county commissioners dealing with similar scenarios. And so Kootenai County and such like that, it seems like somebody within the phone work, whatever, but maybe I'm naive or whatever. I mean, we just went through a COVID thing to where our governor and all that determined yay or nay, or who should do what. But when we have, I used to be a professional firefighter, so I got a little bit of an interest in fires understanding. But it seems to me, well, state fire marshal, he can't come on board until a fire started, then for him to try to step up.
That's not what you said.
Well, I know, I'm just throwing that out there because I'm trying to make the point. It's like, this is the perfect time to where when we know that the whole region is in dire straits or whatever, that this would be where a state fire marshal, somebody up top, can come in and say, hey, not just Bonner County, but we got to make a general of more broad.
State fire marshal could do that right now. Scott.
And Kevin you've hit it on the head. This is one of the first times I've agreed with you too. That basically, if it was a regional issue, if there was a piecemeal issue, the state fire marshal would define the region affected. It would probably be multi-county and basically impose a fireworks ban for the region, for the entire region. But the whole idea of decentralization, the whole idea of local government is to do things piecemeal. So when you talk about regionalization, for example, in land use planning and zoning, it'd be a lot easier just to have one giant planning and zoning entity that does it all for everybody, be consistent, harmonized, all that, but it's piecemeal. It's done at local levels. This statute, in our opinion, is a piecemeal statute, to use that buzzword. And you have to administrate it piecemeal if that's the way it's written. If you don't, you'll get sued. And the people who will sue you are fireworks vendors. And they'll sue you under USC 42-1983 claim, which has uncapped punitive damages. And so it's just not responsible for us to be legislating for other districts.
So let's not us do that. Let's go to the broader statement to dialogue with the state fire people and Kootenai County and whatever other counties.
But in the meantime,
we have talked to you've talked to Kootenai County, right?
Yeah, we talked to Kootenai County. We used Ada County's template. They didn't adopt a map that covered other entities.
But in the meantime, we need to move forward with this, because if the state agency does not respond in a timely fashion, which is very possible, then we need to try to push on a local level. But I don't disagree with what Kevin's saying. It's just that this stuff is all coming out new. I mean, I didn't see this stuff until Monday. I didn't think there was going to be a problem. I thought the commissioners would be able to come in and say, yep, this is what we want to do. Everybody seems to be in agreement, even the people that we're afraid of, except for maybe the firework vendors. And I mean, we're always under threat of lawsuit. That's just part of what we do. in our business. So, I mean, we can't run scared of every little threat that's out there, but yet I do believe that we can get this accomplished by passing this ordinance, which I think is somewhat worthless
Symbolic,
because we're not covering anything that isn't already covered. And
well, it unties the sheriff's hands, and it opens the door for them to get theirs done. And
that's exactly right.
And it does
So
cover
it's gotta be
all
done.
unincorporated territory. It does ban aerial.
So
and
I
ground
want to
cover.
make sure that Scott's on board. He's going to go around to every municipality and every fire district and gather all this up.
One thing you might want to do.
If I'm asked.
As other fire districts do adopt this microdale, your name, Mike Rosedale, Bonner County Clerk. If you adopt this and other fire districts start adopting this, we can have our GIS put a map on the front of Bonner County website. And as different fire districts do it, just highlight those as off limits and just ultimately blanket the whole county. But just keep it updated.
I'd like to have one of those, bunch of those big reader board signs at the state line that said
Having a roadblock.
fireworks are banned.
And that's part of the
So
publicity
maybe
side
go
of it.
somewhere else. Try, I don't know, Montana.
Kootenai County, they don't want one, so
The sheriff to escort him right through to Montana. Go ahead,
just
Dan.
let them burn over into our county.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I heard correctly. I heard fire season. I'm not sure if there's a time limit on this. But when Commissioner says ordinance, I'm thinking this is a resolution, and ordinance is not a resolution, and therefore the timing makes a big issue on it.
It is a resolution, not an ordinance.
Sorry.
Correct. So it's still that time deadline seems to be potentially an issue. For to be determined for 2 weeks, for a month, for the fire season. I mean, what is that timing?
Fire season is defined.
Yeah, we didn't cite, I think what we do is we just pass another rescinding resolution when it's safe. We've asked the sheriff to recommend that, if you would, Daryl, if there's a point at which.
Go ahead,
Doug. So just for my understanding, this is a ban on fireworks. It is not a ban on campfires or barbecues or any of those kinds of things. It is firework specific.
Fireworks.
Thank you.
It defines fireworks. Okay, any other comments before we move to the vote? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Let's see.
Got a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion. Well, what I want to do is I just want to make sure that everyone understands what these resolutions say, so they're specific, and that Scott, you will gladly work with these other districts to help them craft their resolution.
Have a cell phone number that we can put out on the air?
Don't give them my cell phone number.
I have a cell phone number. If anybody wants it, it's going to cost you $10, but I no.
Yeah, I think it's self-explanatory, by the way. It's our GIS mapping that is the piece that I think is a real offer.
Right, it makes the
because
big,
they just have to substitute their name in
does,
here.
That does define the actual line. So, okay, so with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And it is 10:17, and we will go ahead and recess and come back for executive session. Thanks, everybody, for the lively debate.
That was.
That's irrelevant. That's totally irrelevant.
It's fine.